This is 373, week 6, part 3, barreling along. Um, okay, cool. I wish I was in the room with you guys. You guys could shout out romantic comedies that you know, and we could, I don't know, we could talk about all kinds of fun examples. But when I'm alone here, I have to think of all my examples by myself, and then I don't know if I'm picking examples you guys even have heard of. Whereas usually I can come up with an example, and I ask the class for an example. I don't know. I could use some help. Oh God, I miss teaching in real life. Okay, let's try this again. Um, so he continues with the story of the belly, um, with a kind of smile, which ne'er came from the lungs, but even thus. Usually, by the way, he's talking about the belly smiling. Oftentimes, the actor, who's usually quite fat, because he's a senator, and fat people is like the symbol in movies and TV for like someone very wealthy because they can eat a lot. He often makes the actor often grabs the rolls of fat to make a smile, because he says in the story, he says the belly smiled. Often the actor grabs like a roll of fat to make a big smile across his belly. It's a crowd, because he's crowd pleasing. It's silly, but it works, and the crowd event believes him. Because he says, with a kind of smile, which I shall tell you, with a kind of, because what did the belly say? Well, with a kind of smile, which ne'er came from the lungs, because bellies don't have lungs, but even thus, for look, I may make the belly smile as well as speak. See, I think that's a little, I think that the actor there is supposed to grab his fat rolls and make like a big smiley face with his belly. It tauntingly replied to the discontented members, the mutinous parts, that envied his receipt. Even so, most fitly, you malign our senators, for that they are not such as you. But he hasn't gotten your belly's answer. What they want to know? What did the belly say? He's waiting to tell them because he is building anticipation for the answer. He's telling them the story, but he's stalling on the ending because he's trying to hook them in. Because if he can get them hooked on his story, he can calm the crowds down. And I don't want to make too big a deal out of this, but this is Shakespeare's whole job. Is he tells stories to crowds of people, most of whom were poor, and he hooks them on his stories. Nobody in the history of the world has ever been as great a storyteller as Shakespeare. I really believe that. Um, and he and so Menenius is doing a little bit of that here. The power of stories to control a crowd. Good politicians will, bad politicians too, but powerful politicians will tell stories to get the crowd hooked. This guy, the second citizen, this guy's so excited. Your belly's answer what? The kingly crowned head, the vigilant eye, the counsellor heart, the arm our soldier, our steed the leg, our tongue our trumpeter, with other monuments and petty helps, and this our fabric. If they, so he's like, I want to know, what did they say? What did the head say? What did the leg say? What did the arm say? What did they say to the belly? He's so excited. Um, what then? For me, this fellow speaks. He's annoyed at being interrupted. Should by the concormorant belly be restrained, who is the sink of the body, meaning the sink because it's like the drain that all the food goes down. Well, what then? He's joking with him, like, oh, are you going to finish the story I'm in the middle of telling? The former agents, if they did complain, what could the belly answer? Well, I will tell you if you'll bestow a small of what little you have patience a while, and hear the belly's answer. Well, you're long about it. It's his fault they're long about it. He's been interrupting him. So he finishes his story. Note me this, good friend, your most grave belly, the belly was very serious, and deliberate, not rash like his accusers, because the joke is that he's in a hurry, like the accusers are rash. Rash means in a hurry. True it is, my incorporate friends, quoth he, that I receive the general food at first, which you do live upon. And fit it is, because I am the storehouse and the shop of the whole body. But if you do remember, I send it through the rivers of your blood, even to the court, the heart, the seat of the brain, and through the cranks and offices of man. The strongest nerves and small inferior veins from me receive that natural competency whereby they live. And though all at once you, my good friends, this says the belly, mark me, though all at once cannot see what I do, deliver out to each, yet I can make my audit up, that all from me do back receive the flower of all, and leave me but the bran. So he's told a little story. The story is really simple, that all the different parts of the body accuse the belly of stealing all the food, because that's where the food goes, directly to the belly. And the belly says, and the belly doesn't appear to do any work, but all the rest of the body does work. And the belly says, well, it's my job to hold all the food, and it's my job to distribute the food to all the parts of the body. That's the work that I do. So he's saying this to calm them down. He's making a big metaphor. That the rich people are like the belly. It's their job to hold on to the food and distribute it. And so your arm might be like, how come the belly gets the food and not me? But the arm does get the food from the belly, is the argument that Menenius makes. And he makes it in the form of an entertaining story. That's really what's key. He doesn't offer reasons and logic like you would in a 101 essay. He offers a story that's a metaphor like you would read in 201. Okay, and then he explains his metaphor. The senators of Rome are this good belly, and you the mutinous members. Like you're like the arms and legs that are mad. For to examine their counsels and their cares, digest things rightly, touching on the weal of the common, means that's society, you shall find no public benefit which you receive, but it proceeds or comes from them to you, and no way from yourselves. So he says, listen, all the good things you have come from the nobility, from rich people. Stop being a jerk. But what do you think, you, the great toe of the assembly? And he's making a joke that this guy's the toe because he's the one in the front, most forward, the big toe. I the great toe? Why the great toe? Well, for that, being one of the, and he starts insulting him, for being one of the lowest, basest, poorest of this wise rebellion, now go foremost. Because he's a toe, because he's at the bottom, meaning he's poor, but he's also in front, like the toe goes first. Okay, cool. So that's the end of Menenius's first speech in the very beginning of the play. It's interesting because Menenius is a professional politician, and as a result, Menenius is an incredibly good speaker. And he's able to calm the crowd down and give them reason in the form of a story. Stories, most people do not want information in the form of math because they're not good at math. And they don't want a lot, and they don't really want a lot of logic and essays. People don't like to read essays or nonfiction, but you give them a good story and you can tell them what's what. Menenius is good at his job, but that story he tells makes a certain kind of sense, right? That the food does go to the belly, and the belly's job is to distribute the food all over the body. So in this argument, society is like one giant body, and that some of so that the soldiers are like the arms because they do the fighting, and the philosophers are like the brain because they do the thinking, and maybe the poets are like the heart because they do the feeling. We could, whatever, we could do this all day. But that the rich people are like the belly because they have all the food to distribute to the people. And that's what they do. They give the food out. Not too much, not too little, but they give it out. This is bullshit on a couple of levels. And I think Menenius knows it. It's a cute story, but the assumption of the story is that we're all one. We're all connected. It says you got to know your place. We're born into this society. We're all one living creature here to help each other out. That's something powerful people always say, because it's the argument that we're all one living being and we're all connected is an argument for keeping things exactly as they are. Because because it suggests that people are born into a role. Like my hand is like I can't make my hand into my brain. Like I can't change it. So in the same way, if you're born a poor person, there's a sense that you should stay a poor person. If you're born, so let's say the arm, like my arm and my stomach. And this metaphor would be like the soldiers and the rich people. But I can't turn my arm into something else. And so it suggests that soldiers should never stop being soldiers. Poor people shouldn't stop being poor people. That people are born into their place in society, and that's the place for them. It's an argument for things never changing. Who does that benefit? It benefits rich people. Okay, right? Oh God, I'm sorry to do this to all of you, but I am going to do it. On the next, I'm gonna end this little video, and in the next video, I'm probably gonna ruin The Incredibles. So if you enjoy the motion picture The Incredibles, I don't know what to tell you. I'm gonna mess it up in the next video. I'll see you in a second.